Knowing my love for assault rifles, COD Mobile decided to ask me to rank every single one from worst to best based off their prime. So today, I'm gonna rank every single one and give it a score out of 100 based off how insane they were at their peak, how long that peak lasted for, and how fun they were. There's a lot of them, so let's start with the Type 25, which was actually one of the best guns in the game during the beta and Season 1, but its peak didn't last that long, and although it came back in future seasons to be a great gun, it was never really the showstopper that some others have been, which is exactly why it only gets an 84 out of 100. By the way, here's how the scoring's set up. You get an extra point if I just like the gun. Cry about it. Speaking of things I like, I am an M16 enjoyer, but let's be serious. This thing has never had a solid prime. I mean, technically it can one burst across the map, even in the current game, but I mean, having to hit every shot in a burst is not as easy as it looks. And although I love it, it's not in contention to even be up near the top of this list. 66. Yes, this is going to be extremely controversial, and some weapons that you may use or have used in the past that you like may get absolutely roasted. But not the AK-117, as I used to wake up every day and stick this bad boy on in Season 1. It was decent in Season 2 of Year 1 as well, but we're rating this off of multiplayer, and it's not had the longevity in that game mode, well, I kind of wanted it to. BR is a different story. 75. Staying on the same theme of Battle Royale OP weapons, we've got the AK-47. Now, this has never been at the top of multiplayer, ever. It's came close so many times, and even right now, I would say that it's in one of its greatest eras, but even saying that, nobody uses it because it's trash compared to all the other options that are just better. If you use it, you need to upgrade the weapons you're choosing, because this is not it. 51. ASM-10, on the other hand, had a monstrous peak during the 3-tap meta, and it came back a couple of times, granted to lesser degrees of popularity and strength, but I think I speak for everyone who played back then that not only was this a great gun, it was part of a perfectly nostalgic era. Wow, what a double kill. 84. Keeping on that theme of fours, we've got the M4, and this has never been good. I don't care who you talk to. The only people that think that this was ever good are people who just downloaded the app today, and it's the first gun they unlock. So automatically they think it's the best thing ever. It's not. And since I've played COD Mobile since the first ever beta, I think I have the credentials to stand on to let you know that it's never been good in multiplayer. It has only ever been average. Of course, there's a nostalgic factor, which it gets an extra point for, but if we're being serious, it's gotta be a 49. Which brings us along to the BK-57. After the Type 25 and the AK-117 got nerfed, the BK-57 slowly rose up to the top of the AR ranks. But even when it was circumnavigating that area, it never shone above the rest. It was just kind of seen as another choice. Then they added a certain mag to it, and everyone kind of hyped it up for a while, but it was never the one-stop shop for all things strong when it comes to a rifle. I will say it was better than the M4's peak, but not by much. 62. The LK-24, on the other hand, did feature quite recently in the meta, but that period in time was shorter than anyone who uses Thermite's height. Not only that, the default version of it has a weird iron sight. However, if you have some skins for it, it's pretty decent.
I am slaying out with an LK right now, chat.
Its consistency of being average almost rivals the M4, but its peak is superior again, like the BK. Technically, you could have said it was like a top 2 AR, rivaling that of the Kilo, but I'll let you guess what it really rivals with the rating I give it. 69. ICR. When it was first released, it was seen as the long-range sniper assault rifle, and then people realized that it shot too slow and the damage wasn't good enough to justify using it over literally any other assault rifle. But the campers did like it, and I enjoyed using it too because the skins you could get on this bad boy were insane back in the day.
Let's go.
However, that lack of peak and the fact since there was no peak, there was no consistency and it didn't last long, shatters it completely. In fact, the score it gets, it's almost the same age as anyone who finds it fun to use an LMG in ranked. 53. Oh boy, do we have a treat next. The Man of War. This dominated the 3-shot meta for so many months. Being at the apex of that era in COD Mobile history, I love this, especially with that Dream Crystal camo. Peaking at the best gun in the game and also holding that title for a significant period of time, while also being extremely fun to use, we could not put this in the 90s. Similar to where I was in the leaderboards for COD Mobile, it's 91. This one was a hard decision for me because on one hand, it was a superb, consistent weapon at a particular point in time. And then on the other hand, I have bad memories of it because back in the day when I cared about being the best player in the world, there was another guy called Rye who was arguably better than me with it, which puts a stain in my brain. So I'm gonna say it, I'm biased towards disliking this weapon, even though I know it was fun and great. The enjoyment factor, it's just not there for me. It peaked relatively well, but it wasn't a this needs nerfed now weapon, and it's been all right in consistency. So a 76 will do. But oh baby, the HBR back in the day was insane. If you don't remember when this released, let me catch you up to the details, the drama that took place over 4 years ago. You might want some popcorn and to hold on to your seat for this one. So in early 2020, COD Mobile decided to release what would be the most overpowered assault rifle up until that point, which sounds great, right? Oh my god, a new weapon comes to the game, it's amazing, everyone's happy, we're all hyped. It dropped with a skin called the HBR Dragon Dance. But no, ladies and gentlemen, this was where things got serious. Because up until that point, the Locust had been released, the Razorback had been released. The Locust was actually just a reskinned version of the DLQ, so it had the same stats as that sniper. And then the Razorback was just a reskinned version of the PDW, and they also shared the same stats, basically meaning they were just new skins like we get today with different iron sights. But the HBR A3 was different. It was a whole brand new gun with a specific set of stats aligned for it. This caused controversy because when it was released, you had to buy it. That's right, there was no free way to obtain this gun, and it was the best assault rifle in the game. Some of you OGs will remember me using it in this match on Scrapyard.
Nice, got the nick. Wow, that was so easy. Didn't even feel like I was, like, even trying.
And then the rest of you who were into COD Mobile back in the day, remember when I just constantly asked them to release it for free? Because I felt like it was only fair that free-to-play players get to experience the same game as people who pay for anything within it. And lo and behold, they released it for free. And in my opinion, this was the start of the golden era of COD Mobile, where it absolutely obliterated, dominated, and annihilated the competition for a mobile FPS in the entire market, which I feel like gives it a great reason to be super high. Unfortunately, they ended up nerfing it slightly after, so it can't be considered the best assault rifle ever. It just is one of them because of its very particular era in the history of the game. 93. Okay, this is where things could get very controversial. The HVK-30, it's been a good gun pretty much since its release, thanks to the large cal mag. But there's something that happened to it where there was a bit of a bug, and it basically allowed people to two-shot across the map. We're not going to include the bug in this list, which then leads us to where the HVK lands right now. You see, it can also technically two-shot across the map, which was the bug that used to be in the game back in the day. However, because we've kind of creeped up in this slowly moving power curve of how guns operate since back then, it is one of the best, but it's not definitively far above the competition, which is weird. Like, if you put this gun back in 2020, it would make everything else seem terrible. Throw back to just a minute ago when we were talking about the 3-tap AR meta. This is a 2-tap AR that shoots faster than all of those 3 taps, but is not as good now because it's surrounded by other great weapons. And we're comparing peaks of all time. So although this would dominate, it's still barely not the best AR. 92 out of 100. Ah, the DRH. A gun that I literally put my own skin on, and also part of the 3-tap meta back in 2020. The thing that's interesting about this is that not only did it dominate before Gunsmith, it also dominated as soon as Gunsmith was released. So technically, it was involved at the peak of the 2 different weapon customization options in COD Mobile. And it's the only assault rifle to be able to do that back to back. Not only that, it was meta for 4 to 6 months, and right alongside the Man of War. I would say I probably have the most fondest memories with this 3-tapper. And although it's been buffed recently and the pros are using it, it's just not as standout as what it was back then, so we'll go off that prime. That reason, it gets a 92.7. I know, we're going into decimals. But speaking of unnecessary numbers, what is up with the Peacekeeper MK2's name? Like, why do they need the MK2 in there? Also, it doesn't really keep pace if it's a gun. Anyway, Anyway, everyone overhyped this thing back when it was actually meta. There were so many other guns that were just as good, if not better than this. I don't know why, but I've always disliked it. It's never sat right with me. Whether it was the iron sights, the way it felt, the overall clunkiness and feeling that it didn't really fit the assault rifle category, and it also didn't fit the SMG category. It was kind of a mix and match of both, but wasn't particularly the best at any. Just made me dislike the gun in general. However, I gotta give it credit. It was one of the best at a period in time, but that was short-lived. A 73. Solid score. The FR, on the other hand, has never been meta. In fact, the only time it was relevant is when it launched and they released a super highway skin, which is by far one of the best skins in the entire game for any weapon, not only assault rifles. That's the only accolade it has, and it has nothing to do with how powerful the gun is. Therefore, it cannot rank highly on this list. And in fact, it's actually terrible. I do like the sound of it though. It does give me some enjoyment. 51.1. Ah, the AS Val. You can actually use this in two different variants, like a marksman rifle or, well, like a submachine gun. Doesn't even make any sense because it's an assault rifle. Why can you only really use it like that? If you build it the right way, you kind of use it like a close to medium range SMG, and if you build it the wrong way, it's a marksman rifle. And why would you ever use that? If the SKS exists, the SVD exists, just use an XPR. I get that when it released it was good, but it wasn't for very long. I'm pretty sure it got nerfed slightly pretty soon into its life cycle, so 73.5 should be sufficient. AMAX, on the other hand, is also terrible. When it comes to this gun, it doesn't push any buttons for me, ring any bells or whistles. I have no emotional connection towards it whatsoever. As far as I'm concerned, it's just grind, loot, and battle royale, and also got a cool legendary skin. If you love it, I'm sorry, but you need your head screwed back on, buddy. As this is a 65, and the M13 is better. When this launched, there was one thing I loved most about it, and it was the goddamn iron sight. Not only that, they released a mythic, and it was an even better iron sight. I don't know how they did it. They absolutely nailed this thing. Not only that, you have an extended mag. It gives you a free silencer. This was one of, if not the best gun for a period in time, and technically it did rule the land slightly like other guns on this list, which is why it's a 90. Swordfish, on the other hand, hasn't even been able to rule a toilet because it's absolutely I understand, you could one burst with it, but when are you going to use that default scope? What maps do we play in ranked where that is actually useful to your existence? It just never happens. Everyone's rushing around. You don't have time to do that, buddy. The swordfish, 56. Ladies and gentlemen, we must all get on our hands and knees and bow down to the glorious king, the Kilo. Since its release, it has been a meta weapon. It's been that many days since they brought out this gun. What? And it's remained in my top 10 guns list that entire time. People like to say that the M4 is the old faithful. Bro, being on top for this long classifies this thing as a senior citizen. It should be getting monthly checks from all of y'all for spamming it in ranked. All right, I'm also part of that club, I guess. This thing is known as the Killer Kilo. However, what's with the 141 at the end? Oh, I know. In fact, the rumor goes that the 141 at the end stands for the amount of kills you can get with it in a match of ranked. I don't rate this 95 or above. I am gonna get thrown in a pitchfork, ladies and gentlemen. So a 95 it is. The Odin, it's just a worse SKS. VR players, don't even write in the comment section because this is a multiplayer list, but it's trash. I'm ready for the hit. 41. Oh, we're shifting tides right back to the top with the Krieg 6. The number at the end of this gun is to give clarification to the age of people that actually use it, because anyone who is over the age of 20 can't see past that goddamn terrible iron sight unless they bought the mythic and also wear glasses. Then it is superb once more. Okay, I'm kidding, but between me and you, this was phenomenal to use at its peak. It was definitely the best assault rifle, and if you didn't love it, you used the Kilo. But at the end of the day, when that mythic dropped, I know everyone watching this wanted it. In my opinion, one of the best mythics ever released on the best gun in the game at that time. You telling me you didn't want to buy that? It stayed around for a relatively long time and has only fallen off within the last couple of months, so a 93.6 seems reasonable. The EM2, on the other hand, I remember saying back in the day that this was decent at one point, but I feel like that was just because I was coming back into the game and I was playing against noobs, so I thought it was good. And then after I put it in a top 10 guns list and continued to use it in legendary ranked, I just started getting cooked. And I don't regret saying it was good, but I mean, Ferg now, looking back at Ferg then, we've grown, we've elevated, we understand that it was never a highlight star caliber gun. So 56.3. Maddox. When I seen the trailer for this thing, I thought that it was going to be raw. Like I was going to pick it up, use it, and do the cooking with it. That was not the case. And even now I've received a buff and it's still not good. It has never been insane. There's a cool attachment for it, but that doesn't make it a great gun. To be honest, this is probably one of the most disappointing on the list. 51. Point -1, because I want this to get even more confusing. The FFAR, on the other hand, was actually a decent option at one point, kind of operating like an SMG AR hybrid, but mostly on the SMG side, so I don't really understand why they put it in the assault rifle category in the first place. Doesn't make sense to me, but to be honest, they did the same with the Peacekeeper, and also the AS Valve, so I guess it's just a common trend among CODM devs at this point. I think it peaked pretty highly. Like, people were spamming it quite often, but it only lasted like a month, maybe 2. So 78 seems consistent. The Grau, on the other hand, has lasted a great deal of time. I say a great deal, never mind, it's been a few months. Its mythic is awesome too, and it was heavily used in champs. Hell, even the Type 25 I felt like ran COD Mobile better than it. But because it was so prominently used in champs for that one particular season, it's got to be ranked higher because that's a significant event. So I'm going to give it a 90. We've got the Groza. This thing has and is trash. It's 50. And lastly, we have the brand new Type 19, which is reasonably good in the game, but interestingly, suffers from having no aim assist sometimes, which makes it a little bit harder to use, even though its stats are pretty good. 58. And that wraps it up. Here's the entire list, and let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Subscribe if mobile gamers are real gamers.